We're so sorry for that quick technical break. And like I was saying, we are going to be talking about the minimum wage still. There are recent developments about the federal government saying they have reached an agreement, and Labour, on the other hand, are saying an agreement has not been reached. But let me just bring you up to speed with some things that occurred yesterday and earlier today. The federal government on Wednesday admonished Labour to consider the broader economic implications of its push for an unrealistic high national minimum wage. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who handed down the admonishment, hinted that the 250,000 naira minimum wage was demanded by Labour could undermine the economy, leading to mass restriction of workers and jeopardize the welfare of Nigerians. However, the Labour Union referred President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's claim during the Democracy Day broadcast on Wednesday that an agreement had been reached on the new national minimum wage. Acting President of Nigerian Labour Congress, Prince Adewale Adeyuja, said of the time negotiations ended on the 7th of June 2024, no agreement had been reached by the Committee on the National Minimum Wage. So today, on today's edition, I am not alone. I have my guest with me, Mr. Uyi Agbomofregbe. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, Sam, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
And pronouncing your well right.
Well, on a scale of 10, we will give you 6.
that's a good place to start from. Yes. So it's been back and forth for the past few weeks now, running into months. The Labour and the federal government has been having this altercation, negotiation, and thank God so far it's been peaceful, apart from, a little bit of strike that we had. One and a half day strike that we had that almost, crippled the economy. So is the president actually being fair with the fact that he's coming out to say that an agreement has been reached, while the Labour are having some other things different to say?
Thank you once again, Sam. I think there's a bit of conflict here, and we also need to establish some context as well. First of all, let's be clear. Context is a problem here because the president didn't make clear if he meant that there's an agreement on the side of the federal government to say this is what the federal government has agreed as an entity to pay to Nigerian workers as national minimum wage. Therefore, it opens a whole lot of room for members of the public, of course, Nigerians, to speculate and say that the president lied. That's what people have been saying across social media, that the president lied. Even some workers have said the president lied. After all, there's no records anywhere that show that there was a meeting between the tripartite committee and the Labour to say, look, this is what we are agreeing on to pay going forward. But then we also need to be clear on all of these things. Labour has never been ambiguous. Labour has always been clear to say, look, there's no agreement. As a matter of fact, when negotiations closed on the 7th of this month, June, since that time, there has not been any meeting going forward. In any case, the national president of the Nigerian Labour Congress is somewhere in Geneva, Switzerland, attending the ILO meeting and all of that. So what's the point here? The point here is that, like we've always said on all our programs, the government has to bring fairness to this negotiation, to this dialogue. Otherwise, what you're doing going forward is just creating room for a lot of issues around speculation. But then let's also keep in mind that the federal government is saying that if we say, let's, as they say in law, acquiesce to the demand of Labour to say we want to be paid 250,000. The federal government is saying that Labour should step back for a second and look at the broader implications of that demand, which means that amongst several other implications, the federal government will be left with no option than to downsize. Now, what that means is that some persons will practically have to go home and lose their jobs. So the federal government is saying that, on the one hand, while we understand that things are tough, especially in light of these reforms, all of these sweeping reforms that the government is introducing, Labour must understand that we have to be realistic to say 250,000 is not feasible. Therefore, let's meet midway. That's on the side of the federal government. On the side of Labour is saying that you have raised tariff from about 60-something naira to over 200 naira. You have raised fuel from something in the neighborhood of 200 naira to over 700 naira, in some cases up to 800. At the point, we heard stories of how that in some cities in Nigeria, fuel was selling for as high as 1,000. But let's just peg it at 700 for the purpose of this conversation. So Labour is saying that you have done all of these. And then look at the interest rate, for example, look at the inflationary trend, whether it's food inflation or the nominal inflation or whatever you call it. So Labour is saying that for us to be able to mitigate give or take all of these challenges or the implications of these challenges, you've got to pay us 250,000.
50,000.
We also need to know, Sam, that there's a trajectory to this negotiation. It started from about 1 million, brought it down to 650,000.
Yeah.
It's becoming all the way down.
Because they want to dialogue and then meet each other at a very
way and all of that. But you see, when it's not said and done, I am, like many Nigerians, concerned that in the final analysis, it's going to come to a point where even the state governors will become the crux of this matter, as we're already seeing now, because the state governors are saying we can't do more than 57,000. And you have people, even in the government, the federal government per se, saying, I can't imagine paying my driver 100,000. Which means they are saying somehow that the federal government is not even disposed to the idea of paying
100,000. Yeah. Let's look at about state governance now that are saying they want to rely on 57,000. But now in January this year, Lagos state government started paying its workers 70,000 naira, and then the month of May, Edo State adopted that to start and followed suit and started paying 70,000 naira. So now, what's the challenge now? Is it that these two states are generating more revenue than the remaining 34 states in the?
So I spoke with a man here on our program just last week. He was during a big talk. Someone happens to be my former lecturer. And he didn't make a point, because I asked him very pointedly. I said, what exactly is Edo State doing differently that they're already paying 70,000 even before the minimum wage conversation? He said it's simple, that the state government is prioritizing its spending, that the state government is putting its money, as they say, where its mouth is. Therefore, what's the state government doing? The state government is mopping up excesses, plugging holes, leakages where money normally goes out from. You know, for example, he made a very salient point. He said the state government, I mean Edo State now, ensures that every kobo the state makes in terms of IGR goes to a synced account. In other words, this is not a matter of having multiple accounts. Where the governor's wife has one, the HOS has one, the commissioner for finance has one, and all of that. So every money that the state government makes, every kobo, every naira goes to one account. So at the end of every business, the state government can say, this is how much we have made today. More like your treasury single account, that kind of thing, you must do that. I also think that some of these governors have not been responsible, fiscally speaking. I mean, fiscal responsibility has been an issue for many of these governors. Many of these governors also have had issues around not taking workers' welfare seriously. So they believe that everything rises and falls on politics, forgetting that politics, if it doesn't serve the overall interest of people, including workers, it's, comes null and void. So at the end of the day, the point is, to answer your question, state governors must understand that they must set their priorities right. For example, look at Kwara State Governor. Abdul Razak is already saying that, look, in the case of local government autonomy, we don't have a problem, because local governments must have autonomy. Otherwise, the pressure on the states will be overwhelming. So the question is, of all the 36 state governors, how many of them understand this dynamic? Is very important. So to answer your question, Edo State is not the richest state in Nigeria. I mean, the statistics are very clear.
Very clear, yes.
If you talk about the South, where the oil largely comes from, Edo State is not even the richest. You have a state like Rivers. Then you have a state like Delta. Before you go to Akwa Ibom and Cross River and the others. So I think it's a matter of providing forward-looking, selfless, visionary leadership.
Okay, we'll be right back. We'll be doing a very quick break, and then when we come back, Midday Discourse continues. Please do stay with us.
Are you ready to be entertained like never before? Get ready to dive into the latest and greatest entertainment news in lifestyle, music, movies, birthday celebration, and so much more. All on Entertainment Circle on Global Television. From the hottest red carpet event to exclusive interviews with your favorite stars, we've got you covered. Stay up to date with the latest trends and news from the entertainment world, all in one place. Tune in every Saturday by 1 p.m. with Chong and Emil Joseph on Global Television.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Hi, thank you. Many thanks for staying with us. And we've been having an interesting conversation. But Mr. Uyi, are you certain that if the federal government tend to increase, maybe, let's say, get to 100,000, that the Labour Congress now would be able to sit back and like, okay, this is a start. And then if not, what do you think should go further? Should they keep agitating for more salary?
There's no hard and fixed answer to that question, Sam, and I'll tell you why. You see, there's the politics of this negotiation, this minimum wage, and then there's the economics of it. Why? People have argued, the best of economists across the world have argued that you don't necessarily make people's lives better by giving them more money. Yeah. You can even, ironically, compound their problems by giving them more money. So what's the call? The call is government should do the needful, the fundamentals, fix infrastructure, invest in social amenity, all right? Find a way to build some sort of regulatory mechanism around pricing. Of course, that again is a difficult conversation to have because Nigeria is said to be practicing some sort of capitalism, some sort of capitalist economy, even though some economists will tell you what we have here is a voodoo economics that we're doing. But in all, it's not a walk in the park to say regulate price. That's number one. Let's also keep in mind, Sam, that Labour is not just only saying increase our salary or our pay. They are saying return electricity tariff to status quo. So we have not even gotten to that element of the negotiation. So the question is, what is government's response to that? We've not gotten there. Because if you were buying units, energy unit of 5,000 maybe a month or two ago, no, let's say 3-4 months ago, by now you have to buy as much as 20,000. So it has quadrupled. That's the implication. So Labour is also telling federal government, return that to the way it was before today. So is government willing to do that? Is government ready to come to the table for that dialogue? I don't know about that. But let's even say for the purpose, again, of this conversation, government says, we're offering you 100,000. Will Labour take it? If Labour does take it, which means it brings Labour and the federal government to the table, and the governor say, okay, we agree 100,000. The organized private sector says, we agree 100,000. Now, what will 100,000 do for a family of even three? Let's say a man, his wife, and one child. Of course, we are not saying that government must fix everybody's problems. But you see, the minimum, that's the reason it's called the minimum wage. Recall that there's also a strong implication on the part of government, because government must also factor in the minimum wage into what they call consequential adjustments, which means minimum wage is first for people who are just entering the service, entry-level workers. How about people who have done 5, 10, 15, 20 years? People from maybe grade levels 7 all the way to maybe 16. How do you factor it in? In the middle of all that, state governors are now saying, don't forget that we have pensioners to take care of. How do we factor that into pension? Recall that if you go to several states across this country today, many governors have not paid pension for months, some of them for over 1 year. And some of those governors did 8 years in office and they left. Again, it brings Edo State to mind. This is not to highlight Edo State. It's to say that we must show example of states that have done the right thing in certain areas. Edo State is one state where you don't find pensioners complaining, going to radio and TV stations to complain and nag, or see them carry placards across the city. Because the governor has come to realize that you can't build a civil service that truly works and delivers the best or the optimum service if you do not take care of their welfare. So it ensures that not only are workers taken care of, civil servants also have no reason to complain. So in all of this, what's the point? The point is government must take responsibility and ensure that beyond just paying whatever amount you want to pay, whether labor accepts or not, you must fix infrastructure. You must take care of issues around agriculture. You must deal with issues that are associated with education and health. Where does the worker's family go to for health care? How functional is our national health insurance system? It's not enough to play jingles on television. When people go to hospital real time, what kind of service do they get? What kind of experience do they get on the basis of health insurance system in this country? Government must go and look at those issues. Otherwise, I can assure you, Sam, this is just June. Between now and end of September, we're coming back to this same dialogue for the wrong reasons as always. So to answer your question directly, it is not about what you're going to pay as it is about the ways in which what you are going to pay will impact the lives of those to whom you are making that payment.
Yes. Okay, now let's look at before the whole hike on tariff and fuel and food inflation, which is at 40.2% currently, you know.
That's all-time high.
All-time high, yes. So, you know, earlier, maybe during your days when you served, you probably earned around 18,500. Nobody
was a whole lot of money. Don't play.
You know, then so nobody came out to like clamor because you can actually get a bag of rice for around.
In fact, you looked forward to it because it will change your life.
It will change your life. So now, are we saying the inflation and then the hike in food prices and all is the bedrock of all of these negotiations, and then Labour requiring for more salary?
It is. That's why you hear when the Labour leaders take to the street, whether it's TUC or NLC or a combination of all of the affiliates, you always hear them talk about this money cannot buy a bag of rice, and the facts are there. I don't know what brand of rice 60,000 can buy as of today. I spoke with a few ladies about a fortnight ago, and they said even local rice is higher than the minimum wage that's been proposed by the government. Local rice that people didn't even feel very proud of before now, but is the mainstay now, is the household thing now, because people don't have much of a choice this time. So they have to just live with the reality in front of them. Now, the thing is, these issues around labor, minimum wage, and the conversations around it, they start yesterday. They will start with the current leadership of the Labour or the TUC, is exactly with even the President Tinubu administration. It's been a long time coming. We have had protests. I mean, growing up, I've witnessed protests even when Oshomole was the president of the NLC. I mean, all of the protests around the increase in the pump price of fuel and so on and so forth. The question is, have we addressed those issues till today? The NNPC came out a few days ago to say, look, there's no truth in the report that we have not been audited or we have been audited. We cannot account for 3.3 trillion, which is a lot of money, by the way. But how do you explain to a rational, right-minded Nigerian that even Nasiru El-Rufai, immediate past governor of Kaduna State, a chieftain of the APC, would come out under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, as he then was, the leader of the party at that time, to say, look, the NNPC has not been audited for so and so number of years. Now, for those who are vast in the field of accounting and auditing, they understand the implication of saying that an entity as big and as critical as the NNPC has not been audited for several years, which means that those are issues that are underlying issues. When COVID killed many people across the world, the doctors would always tell you that it was not so much about COVID that killed them as it was about the fact that they had other underlying health issues. It's the same thing with a country like Nigeria. So if you don't understand and address fundamental issues, you think it's just about pay, about 100,000, about 250,000. Those are the superficial issues. Those are the surface matters. We're talking about the deep-rooted issues that the government has either not dealt with because they don't realize it, or they are playing the ostrich over those issues. So when it comes to food inflation, government must address it. When it comes to unemployment, government must address it. And government must support the private sector, the organized private sector, that is. Government came out a couple of weeks ago to say that tax is now the highest revenue earner for the country, even more than or higher than oil. We're proud of that. But the question is, what projects do we tie these taxes to? How do these taxes rub off one way or another, directly or indirectly, negatively or positively, on citizens, those who are even paying these taxes? And people will always put pressure on government to provide answers in that direction.
Yes. Talking about pressure now, the federal government have decided to, or threatened to, sack or fire a whole lot of persons if they
should they pay what labor is demanding.
Yes, what labor is demanding, then they'll have to fire a lot of persons. Do you think it's a right approach? Because it's seeming they want to force down this 62,000 naira down
the truth of organized labor.
Oh, yes.
You see, again, that's a tough call. Tough call because most of us are not surprised that it has gotten to this point. We always knew. It's not the first time government after government has done that, one administration after another. It always comes to a point where you say, look, since you want us to pay X, Y, Z, there's no wala, we can pay. But if we do pay, however, note that this will be the implication. Because for every action, there's a ramification, all right? So to answer that question, the point is, government is not going to fire anybody. At some point, there's going to be some sort of, if you like, understanding between the government and the labor. However, the challenge is this. Government must also ask, how does whatever we offer labor affect the productivity of the Nigerian workers? Because for the most part, whether you like it or not, the first line of the people we're having this conversation about are the public workers, those in the public service, not the private sector guys. Yeah, private sector people always have a way of negotiating their pay one way or another. But you see, because for the private sector, the first point is value. That's the first concern. But in the public sector, in the public service, they have a bunch of other metrics that they use and all of that. All right. But that said, you see, we must look beyond what you want to be paid, what you can pay. For the government to say, well, if we pay what labor is demanding, it means we won't be able to keep or retain all of these staff that we have, because we're hearing now that that number stands at 5.3 million. All right, that's a whole lot, but it's still a fraction. It's still infinitesimal when you look at the entire population strength of Nigeria as of today. So government must now realize that this is not just about labor. Government is going to wake up tomorrow and realize that right in front of it, you have the issue of unemployed graduates. You have the issue of unemployable graduates. You have the issue of inflation. You have the issue of forex. Nigeria and the naira getting weakened every other day against the dollar, whether it's a parallel market or the official market. So these are the issues government has to address going forward. So it doesn't become an issue of, we are seeing stories every day about the picture of Joe Ajero, Osifo, and the president merged together about labor running from one end of the country to another.
Yeah, let's just assume that maybe the federal government decides to pay the 250,000 on an assumption. What does this mean to private sectors now? Will they be able to reach that same, or businesses will fold and then people will pack up shop?
It's going to have a serious implication, Sam. Let's not lie to ourselves about it. One of the first implications will be that inflation numbers will run through the roof. Again, whether it's food inflation or the nominal inflation. Because once your landlord hears that your salary is now 250,000 as minimum wage, meanwhile, even somebody probably has done 10 years in the service, which means you're even earning further than that, far more than that, let's say in the civil service, for example. It means you're leaving that landlord or landlady no other choice than to do an upward review of your rents. And then, of course, you're going to see prices of food items, food ingredients, shoots, school fees, everything is just going to be shooting right through the roof. You're going to find that. But let's narrow it down to the private sector. How do they pay? If you look at the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, they have complained for at least as long as I've followed the news, over 2 decades, about how that there has been this steady depletion, all right, of foreign direct investment, one. Number two, the cost of raw materials. So in all, the manufacturers in this country are saying that we don't get anything close to the amount of support we're supposed to get from the government. And now you're further going to complicate it by paying, for example, again, like you just suggested, 250,000 to workers. So which manufacturer is going to pay that? We have seen senators, some of them, ranking senators, saying that they can't pay 100,000 to their drivers. These are senators we know earn in millions, whether it's on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. That's, again, another conversation for a different day. But what it does mean is that the government must understand that there's going to be the hard work of asking themselves, what exactly are the needs of Nigerians, not just the workers? What do we need to do to reduce the pressure? Even people in government, even those who are serving in the cabinet of President Bola Tinubu are saying that these are tough times for Nigerians, and we all know what that means. So in the final analysis, if government were to, and we hope that doesn't happen the best interest of Nigerians, accept to pay 250,000 naira, the implications will bring this country to a place that is far worse than where we are at the moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oyi, for joining us.
Always a delight.
On Midday Discourse. It's amazing and very great to have you. Thank you. So looking at the time now, the time it's telling us to pack up shop and then leave the studio. This is how much time will permit us to take today on today's edition. I'll see you all tomorrow with more interesting talking points. I'll see you tomorrow. Do have a great day ahead. Good afternoon.